Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special Thanksgiving edition of Making an Impact here with myself, the foe, Cody Defoe, and my always wonderful co-host, the natural, Astrid
Hi
Pizarro. Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving, Astrid. How's your Thursday in November going?
I'm still stuffy from the food, so I'm still recovering. Thank goodness that I'm sitting down for a little bit now, so I can recover from all that food. How are you?
It's just an average Thursday for myself. My Thanksgiving was a month ago, but I'm happy to be here celebrating and enjoying some Impact Wrestling. Tonight's show was a pretty loose episode, just a couple small promos setting up for next week and some recaps from last week and some looks back at different Thanksgiving shenanigans. So we're going to run this show a little bit differently tonight. We didn't actually get a chance to recap Overdrive last Friday, so that's kind of going to be the key, and what we're really going to focus in on is just talking about what we thought about Impact Overdrive last week, some of what they've set up coming for next week, what we thought coming out of Overdrive that we might be headed for, what it looks like we actually are heading for, and just overall the story and where we're at in Impact after we're a couple months into making an impact now. So where do we think we're headed with kind of Impact Wrestling in the next couple months?
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
So we'll kind of kick off. We'll go through the card of Overdrive as it played out. Quickly before we really dive into that, though, just going to shout out to everyone that's joining us in the comments so far. Bobby, nice to see you joining us here. Mel, always happy to have you around. And Bobby, another great show from you again tonight. Happy to have you hopping in after you're off air yourself. Happy to talk Impact Wrestling with anybody who wants to hop in the chat there with us as well. So Overdrive kicks off the countdown to Overdrive. We had the couple of countdown matches that were added at last minute last Thursday. The first one that we got was the 6-man X Division scramble, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Speedball Mike Bailey, Kenny King, Yuya Uemura, Rich Swann, Bhupinder Gujjar, and Jason Hotch. Pretty solid match, a solid opening to get everybody in the building kind of going. Lots of action, lots of fast-paced, big spots. Not a ton of story being told there, but a little bit that's going to play out in the near future. What did you think of this match, Astrid?
The main thing that I liked about it is that everybody has some sort of spot to shine. It wasn't just like focusing on one certain person or two. Everybody had their little spots. I think especially for me was Jason. I think Jason was really highlighted during this match for me, which I really enjoyed because I've only seen them with the part with Joe Hendry. After that, he just kind of disappeared for me. So I'm glad that he got that spotlight there. And towards the end, more than anything, the ending, because Kenny King is just focused instead of just pitting the person he was involved. I believe it was Bhupinder and Hodge were together. They had done a move. And these people just did an ultimate on them, ultimate weapon on top of them. And instead of that, Kenny just took out Speedball, and instead of just pinning one of them, he just told Swann to do it, which I thought was interesting because it was like, kind of like, this is not my focus. My focus is on Speedball. And you can tell by that part of the match. And like I said, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Impact before that, Swann has also gotten a pin victory not too long ago. So within the two victories, it made me wonder if he's maybe the next person to go now against the person that won the X Division Championship match.
Yeah, it's a possibility for sure. I agree with, like you said there, Hotch definitely was the standout in this match for me. As somebody who we haven't seen a ton of, he definitely didn't look out of place with a bunch of people that we all kind of liked and saw, even though he did eat the pin at the end of the day. He still looked good in defeat. Obviously, Kenny King just kind of handing the victory over to Rich Swann when he easily could have taken the pin himself. Just more focused on destroying Speedball, as we saw a little bit in his promo tonight as well, leading into the future of where that program is going. We got Yuya Uemura looking great again, not getting pinned, not getting a victory, but still looking solid. And Bhupinder Gujjar as well really got to shine being in an X Division role here. He's been tied up a lot in the Raj Singh and Shira stuff. and then a little bit with Brian Myers and Matt Cardona there for a while, that putting him in this spot in the X division really just feels like a perfect fit for where he's at in his development and his character right now. And I think he'll really shine getting to work with a lot of these guys going forward. He might not be in line for a title shot anytime right away, but I don't think it's too far off.
Yeah, even though they didn't announce it that way, they just definitely made me feel like a number one contenders type of match of just like, whoever wins will go against the winner of the X Division Championship match later on. But they didn't give any hint of that, but that was like the vibe that I got from the match itself. That's why when I saw Swan winning, I kept thinking, well, we have Kenny and Speedball focusing on each other, so they're probably not going to go for the title at the moment. So it makes sense for Swan to be the first person now going against that one. And then we'll probably get Speedball or Kenny after the rivalry is over somehow.
Yeah. And then Kenny King, I'm just going to touch on it because it's there. We're talking about this whole match and the fallout of it. Kenny King tonight during the Thanksgiving special episode had a moment to cut a promo and talked about how he had the chance to win, but he doesn't care about getting wins right now. He doesn't care about going for the title right now. His main priority and his main goal is revealing Speedball Mike Bailey as a fraud, that he's hiding behind a mask, that Kenny King knows who the real Speedball is, and he's not going to stop until he reveals to everybody who the real Speedball Mike Bailey is, and that he's not the happy mullet smiling good guy that he's portraying himself to be. It's an interesting way to go about a story. How do you feel about this? We got set up as well next week. We are getting Kenny King versus Speedball Mike Bailey in the Impact Wrestling ring.
From the standpoint of Speedball, and just what is he gonna really come out and say? He's like, yeah, I'm a fraud or anything like that. It doesn't sound like Speedball. So when Kenny does something like that, I wonder what they're really gonna show when it comes to the character development of Speedball in that sense of it. Because the way he just keeps going, oh, you're a fraud, you're this or that. How is that gonna come out in storyline later towards Speedball? Because like you said, Speedball's that smiley, kind of happy person that you see. He's just happy to be where he is in the position he's in. So just like, I don't know how that's going to picture in TV and when they portray it that way, because I don't see Speedball turning heel, for example. So just like, what it's going to be the end result of this is what got me curious since it started, and I don't see that. So I don't know how to describe it at the moment, but it made me curious at how that's going to go about and the progression it'll make in the storyline though.
Yeah, it has me interested at least for what Kenny's really going for here. What is he going to try and show us that Speedball is really hiding behind his smile, that fake smile as he called it? What is the real method and means of Speedball here, as opposed to just being this happy, friendly, good guy? After that match, we also had our other countdown match, which was the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Bullet Club of Ace Austin and Chris Bay. This one was announced as a number one contenders match, that the winner of this match would face the winner of the tag team title match later in the night. Honestly, the number one thing I wrote down on my notes is everything you'd expect. It was another great showing by Ace Austin and Chris Bay. They looked like the dominant team throughout. Obviously, at the end, Motor City Machine Guns managed to steal the victory, but that's two really strong showings in a row in Impact Wrestling ring for Ace and Bay. And now, if anyone is actually watching the New Japan Super Juniors Tag League tournament, Ace and Bay have been killing it out there as well. I'm hearing nothing but great things about how they have been received and how they are performing out there as a team, for a team of guys who are just thrown together with no real experience or history of working together. They've gelled and meshed so perfectly right off the bat.
Yeah, this match, I loved it from beginning to end. And I especially love how they highlighted Ace and Bay as a team. You could see them, the way their double team moves were so very well meshed together, and the way it happened, the timing of everything is so well done. I love that part of it. It just like being that it was on a World Contenders match, I had hoped they would win the match because I feel like they're so hot right now. I just might as well take advantage of it. And then when I saw that Motor City Machine Guns was like, I could see it because they're experienced and you had them as a veteran part of the team. And I feel like they were going to go up next, but we had the major players kind of skip them. So it makes sense that they also won, but I was so torn about it because I really wanted Chris and Ace to win this one and go against them, because I feel like they work hard for it, and just that match alone.
Yeah, for sure. And later in the night, we had the backstage segment as well, which I really, really loved, where we had Ace and Bay talking with Sabin and Shelley, and you had the Motor City Machine Guns really praising them. Like, you guys are great. You've gelled so well. Like the same thing, right? You've only been teaming for so little, and that's when Ace and Bay said, we're heading over to New Japan. We're going to be in the Super Juniors. Obviously, Sabin and Shelley have been there for a long time. They're currently the NJPW Strong Tag Team Champions. So they had a back and forth on that about the fact that Ace has only ever been up over to Japan once. Chris Bay's never been before. So I think it was Sabin said to them, you will come back better because that's what New Japan does. And Ace and Bay called out, well, maybe we'll come back for those titles, and patted the New Japan ones, and then, or maybe you guys will be Impact World Champions by the time we get back, and we'll come and take those off you too.
Yeah, I love that part of it because it just showed the contrast is still between the teams. I had the Motor City Machine Guns as the veterans who've been teaming us. We've been teaming up for a couple of decades now, and they're like, no, we've been teaming up for a couple of months. But it just shows how much in just that little time they have grown together. It just showed me that contrast between them, but it made me love that interaction even more between them backstage, and made me excited for that match when it happens.
Yeah, and then of course you had to have the major players just pop in and ruin the interaction by saying nobody's taking the titles but us, and we're going to be the champions because we're the greatest, and the major players, and blah 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 blah, whatever Cardona says when he feels full of himself.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Ed.
Happy Thanksgiving, Ed. Welcome to the show. You haven't missed much yet. We're still just talking the countdown to Overdrive. That is the end of the countdown, though. We got those two matches. We got the Motor City Machine Guns winning. They will take on the tag champions sometime in the coming weeks. Bullet Club is gone. They're off to New Japan. I think they missed the next couple tapings in Kentucky. They probably won't be back now until the December tapings, I believe. So we can expect that they're going to be off air for a little bit. And when they do come back, hope for a big reaction from the Impact crowd, really welcoming them back into the building.
Yep.
The main show started off with the match that I don't think anybody was extremely excited for. We got Bully Ray and Moose in a tables match. It was a slower match. Moose had a lot of difficulty with some faulty tables right off the bat there. I don't think any of those tables were actually built to stand on their legs. They were just built to collapse. But he managed to make do, propping them up in corners. And the way he propped the one up, like angled on the ropes where it was on a leg and then just hanging onto the rope on the other side, was fun to me. I was hoping they were actually going to try and do something with that, but then they ended up propping it back up on the corner afterwards anyhow. Welcome to the show, Barry. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're having a great holiday. What did you think of the match, Astrid? I feel like I've talked a lot about the countdown. What did you think of Bully and Moose?
Yeah, this one was one of those that I was not looking forward to. So I was not excited to begin with when it's like had the match open the show itself too. And just like, okay. But it just like, I was hoping the way it started, because it started with Moose giving Bully Ray a low blow and then spearing him. And when that happened, I was like, just please pin him. Please, I want this to be over as soon as possible. I know that wouldn't happen, but I was wishing. But yeah, I thought the started
pinned him in a tables match, Astrid.
I know, but still, just get rid of him, just like ASAP. So that's what I was hoping for from the beginning. I was hopeful, but it didn't happen. But I feel like that would have been so shocking to see, just like from the get go, have a match is supposed to be Bully Ray's one of his like favorite, like one of his matches, a tables match of all matches, and then he loses it this way. But yeah, it was very slow for me, and just like I don't like Bully as it is. I don't like Moose, so I was not excited to watch it. Now, like, that kept my attention, but it's still just. And the way it ended, it was just a spear through the table, and then obviously I expected just Bully to win. So it was nothing out of the ordinary for me, nothing that really stood out in that sense to me either. So I was like, I wouldn't have opened with this match. I probably would have opened with the X Division one, just to get people going and get their energies up, instead of just this one that's slow to begin with.
The biggest thing that stood out for me from this match is that it was very heavily story based. There weren't a ton of spots. There wasn't even a lot of action. It was more Moose struggling with tables than there were moves, I think. I feel like people were moving tables more than they were moving each other. They were just, the other person was just laying in the ring, right, waiting for their opponent to get a table in the right place. So not a ton to talk from there, but Tom and Matt made a great call, really focusing on the story as it was playing out. And I think it was the story that Moose and Bully were kind of going for, that everything was focused on calling back to that initial spear by Moose weeks ago that kind of set this all up. Because we had a lot of different places and spots. They kept setting those tables up in the corners. You had Bully try and go for a spear and threw himself through a table. You had Moose try and go for the spear, like stopping himself before he goes through the table, and then Bully comes behind and hits the spear. And I feel like there was a couple other points where we set up for different things with the spear and even hit the spear without tables involved. It was almost in essence kind of like a Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match, that there weren't that many moves and it was just a whole bunch of spears. But at the end of the day, the way they did it, it was very slow, it was very plodding, but I could at least appreciate the fact of what they were trying to tell in the story, that it was all about spearing each other through a table and not much else.
Well, I'll clarify. It was better than any Tommy Dreamer match, though. I can tell you that much.
So we know what's next. We'll talk about a little later what came after and what's next for Bully. With this loss and kind of being out of the title picture, where do you think Moose is headed next?
Oof. I feel like that's a tough one for me right now, because being that he's probably done with Bully, I feel like the only thing that, like I said, I think last week, they still haven't told us who attacked Ace Austin in the parking lot. So just like, you can't give me a mystery like that and not tell me the answer a couple of weeks later somehow. And he's like, I feel like they could have done it in so many ways by now. So I just wonder if they want us to forget by now that it happened and just kind of erase it from that history. Because why would you keep it a mystery even longer after everything that happened during the main event? I don't know. But I kept thinking of like so many people at the moment, and I feel like it's a good timing in a way for them to just reset, because I don't know who Moose will go against at the moment. Maybe Steve to kind of keep them busy for the moment, perhaps, but I can't see anybody with him right now.
Yeah, I mean, Macklin and Moose have kind of been around the block a little bit now with the Sami Callihan story and the barbed wire mayhem and all of the stuff that they had going on. I'm thinking going back to the Ace Austin attack, that was the only time that one backstage segment and the follow-up match after Ace was attacked. It's the only time in the last couple months that we've seen Juice Robinson on Impact TV. Just that one show, that one brief match and segment, that I'm wondering if it was something with Juice that maybe we will come back around on, where it was Juice that attacked Ace, but maybe Juice has scheduling conflicts. Maybe it's something that they have to wait until the right time for a Juice turning on Bullet Club angle to play out. Lots of different options there, but you could have something if Juice is eligible to come back to Impact, where maybe he has a feud with Moose. It's a feud that I'd be okay seeing, would be a Juice and Moose. Other than that, though, I don't really see where you head next with Moose right now. I think he's almost just got to be in a holding pattern for a little bit until some of these other stories kind of open up a spot for him to move in.
Yeah, I definitely kept thinking, and I don't know who he would go against right now. I kept wondering myself after the match, just like, I know it's not going to be Bully, because that's over. I know he's not going to the world title because we already set that up later on tonight. So just it kept me wondering, say, where does he stand right now? I don't have anything in my mind for him as of now. I'm hoping probably next week we'll see kind of something being set up there.
Yeah. So that's that. I'm going to ask you, tell me about the Knockouts tag match. What did you think?
Ironically, for that one, I was just watching it, but I didn't have any like notes of anything that really stood out to me, which was, I don't want to say unfortunate, but I wasn't expecting something like out of the ordinary to happen there. Like you said, it was something more like almost storyline based of like the Death Walls are still together. They still retained, and Savannah and Tasha just, they're out of it now. So that's another one that I kept thinking it's kind of like a timing for reset when it comes to them too, because who else is going to face them? What other tag teams do we have at the moment that could go against them? I feel like Savannah and Tasha were just kind of a way to cover it up to get them some challengers, but unless they have some kind of rematch, but they have no reason really to give a rematch to them. And it's like we don't have Deanna, Chelsea, and Giselle, so they're not gonna challenge anytime soon either. So maybe wonder who's gonna be teaming up soon to go against them, perhaps.
Yeah. Lots of question marks right now. There's a lot of moving pieces. We've seen a fair number of pieces move out of Impact. I'm expecting that we should start seeing a little bit more starting to show up and starting to come in from the outside. The match itself, the big thing that I took away from it is that Taya Valkyrie ended up playing face in peril for a large portion of this match. That it was just a consistent story of Tasha and Savannah singling her out and continually making sure that they're keeping Jessica out of the match. Like, they were afraid of having to fight Jessica in this. And once we got Jessica in the match, it's like she came in with a head of fury and suddenly the match was over. I don't recall much in terms of the back and forth between Taya and Jessica in this match. It literally felt like one tag and we're done, which it accomplished what the Death Dolls needed to really establish themselves as a strong piece. But I said it in our prediction show last week, and I'm still kind of stumped that they've kind of beaten everybody else right now. Where do we go next?
Yeah. I like Bobby's idea here. Maybe bring in Pretty Empowered and the Hex for the Knockouts Tag Team division. Yeah, I mean, that could be a good idea. I think if NWA involved with I was going to say TNA, but with Impact and Mickey being an Impact, I don't know if that's a thing that's going to happen anytime soon, perhaps because of the relationship there. But who knows? At this point, maybe they'll either sign somebody or make up a team in the next couple of weeks to face them, because I really don't see anybody that they haven't faced yet. And
Killer.
Yeah, you never know. So it just maybe we'll find somebody that can have a common ground of like, we need to go against them and beat them, and nobody has beat them, so we can do a kind of a situation, because I really don't see anybody in teams that can face them right now.
I have managed to stay almost entirely away from the Kentucky spoilers. I've seen one match that was announced, and that is legitimately all I have seen from the Kentucky Chaos show. Didn't even see the result of the match, just that it was happening. So I'm excited and optimistic of what might come here between this Kentucky taping and the New Year's taping in Florida. And the next couple shows that we've got running in Impact. Obviously, we're into the holiday season now. We've got the IPWF show coming up as well with the Throwback Throwdown. So a lot of different kind of nonsense, fun stuff, not a lot of big build shows mixed in there as well. So we'll still have our Impact Wrestling every week, but I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking, but I would hope that we're going to see some maybe local talent, some up and comers getting a chance, like Speedball was last year, like a Savannah Evans coming in, different names coming to kind of fill out the roster again. Because I feel like we're hitting that point where we're feeling a little skeletal and we need some flesh on these bones.
Yeah, because I feel like they have lost a lot of people the last couple of weeks between the Kingdom and Honor No More breaking up. So and they're not being highlighted like they used to. Plus, they probably just lost Chelsea Green on top of it. And it's like everybody seems occupied for the moment. So I feel like it's time for like that reset, like I said, of them finding new people to come up and give them opportunity to be on TV somehow, or somebody they're probably looking to sign, perhaps. I think the only person they have really signed in the last couple of weeks was Angels, that he said he's been signed since October.
Yeah, Angels and Khan, I think, obviously signed to have joined VBD. So those are kind of two big ones. Other than that, I haven't heard of any real signings coming down the line yet.
Yeah, and like Bobby's saying, they lost Madison, Rain, and Emma too. Yeah, they didn't feel like it's just a lot of kind of last couple months they're losing a lot of people and not really signing as much. It's Bobby Bunsen is saying it's time for a cross promotion with MLW, perhaps. I mean, Impact seems to be the one forbidden door that people don't talk about often because they're the ones working with other people. So you never know.
I mean, they have cross-promoted with MLW, right? They had Davey Richards in a show just this summer, and was announced as being a representative from MLW at that show. So it's an option for sure. They've been doing a good job everywhere they've been going of bringing in, like when they were in New York, they brought in Bobby Fish, and when they were in Vegas, they brought in Taylor Wilde, obviously down there for those shows in Vegas. That I don't know if Taylor's sticking around for the long term or if she was just around for this Mickey feud and she's done. But they've really been trying to fill out the shows with some local bigger names wherever they've been going.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I guess I missed that one. Sammy Callahan being in the Battle Royal for MLW. Nice.
Yeah, so lots of opportunity there. Obviously, they are they're the least forbidden of the doors, right? They're the company that will work with everybody. We had Mickie James represented as Impact in WWE at the Royal Rumble. We've had Frankie Kazarian representing AEW. We've had Bullet Club from New Japan. We've had Ace and Bay now going to New Japan from Impact. We have lots of different pieces coming from all over, and every company is welcome to work with Impact. So lots of options of who they could have.
Yeah, and Taya, like he said, Taya is the champ there too. And like Bobby Petito saying, Impact Wrestling should bring Billy Starks inside Brookside. I mean, maybe Zaya could be waiting for the NXT Europe if whenever they do it next year. It depends, I guess, on the months. Perhaps it's probably what just laying low for the moment. Billy Starks is also debuted in MLW next couple of weeks. So, and she just came. I think she's still, or maybe she came back from Japan as well. So I think that could be a big name to bring in and bring some attention to the brand as well.
Yeah, lots of options out there for sure. I just lost my notes, but I think we were at Mickie and Taylor is what's up next. Yeah. So go into that, Astrid.
This one though, I don't want to say I was disappointed because I love Mickie and I like Taylor, but I guess the part of like Taylor being in this match, it was slow for me, and I didn't like that at all. I like when Mickie has that fast pace during most of her matches. Oh, thank you, Bobby, for the date, January 7th. I knew it was soon. But yeah, just like it wasn't the way I hoped the pacing will be. I know there was a lot of submissions, a lot of holds, and very technical. I like that it did show off a different side of Mickie, though, having Taylor there and having a different kind of style. But I felt like just when it was picking up a little bit of pace, it kind of slowed down again. So it was like that for me. And I didn't like that part of it. But towards the end, we just have Mickie as the winner and keeping up the final radio coming. And after the match, we get none other than Deonna Purrazzo coming out, and she tells Mickie that she's the one that's gonna end her last rodeo, and she's gonna face her sometime soon and end her career. And I believe it was tonight they announced that they're facing each other next week.
Yeah, for sure. I had the same feeling with Taylor Wilde, that it was another mediocre showing for her. She really just hasn't stood out. I don't know, maybe she was better when she debuted back in 2012, as they talked about right after Mickie James left that time. But from what I've seen of Taylor Wilde, she can't hang. And I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's she was never that good, or if she's just fading into the sunset herself and should be on her own last rodeo. But it was a match that happened. It kept Mickie's last rodeo going. It was just another notch in her belt, a match probably more for the two of them than the audience itself. That it seems like the fact that they had such a brief crossing before Mickie left when Taylor started, that they wanted to have that opportunity to get to wrestle each other one time before Mickie's gone. I could have done without it. The ending and the Deonna call out, though, was a nice one. That Deonna has the history with Mickie. They have plenty of bad blood between them. Now Deonna's blaming Mickie for chasing Chelsea out, calling her a hypocrite, telling her that she's nothing but a selfish 5-letter word for making everything about her, that she came back, she had to take the title, and she had to ruin Deonna's historical championship reign, and now she had to ruin, Deonna has a friend and tries to go for the tag titles, and she has to ruin that too, and it's all about Mickie. And this is going to be fun. Deonna and Mickey last year when it happened for the title was fun. This is going to be a fun one as well. I don't know that I believe Deonna as the person who's going to end it, at least not this time. Maybe we come around to it, or this ends in a way that Deonna loses, but maybe by her own choosing. Maybe she just gets overzealous and takes a DQ to draw this out to a bigger match. I assume this is a story you could drag out to a hard to kill. I don't know where you go with Mickey otherwise, unless this is just a quick one and done, and maybe we do get a Killer Kelly or a Masha Slamovich coming in as the hard to kill match for Mickey James. But I would like to see this play out over a longer time.
Yeah, because I just keep thinking if when the last rodeo ends, it has to be on a bigger stage. So I don't see this happening on just a weekly episode of Impact. I really don't. I think it has to be like one of those big pay-per-views, like Hard to Kill, perhaps. Like you said, I do see it happening sometime there. But I was thinking also, like, we have the fact of like Giselle. Giselle has been, after she lost the championship match, they haven't done anything with her. So I wonder if she will get involved in there and say, like, no, I want to end it with Mickey and have that like back and forth. And maybe include her in there somehow, because aside from Deonna, again, I don't see anybody else right now that could say, I want to go against Mickey, unless it's Masha or Killer Kelly, who we haven't done much with her at the moment. She only had that match against Sandra. I think it was her name, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just like, here, I just had somebody to face, and that was it. And yeah, just like, if anything, then Masha, if anything, will be the other one. But like I said, I was thinking of her and Masha with the title match, and going back to that she's the one that Mickey picked Masha as a pick your poison match. So I thought that would have been a good setting there, but it didn't happen that way.
And Bobby brings up Jordynne Grace, and I know we've talked, and it really feels like this Mickey last rodeo is heading to the point where it's going to end up being a title match, where it becomes title versus career, and then if they decide to go that route, put the title on her, and then her title and her career go hand in hand. If she wins the title, then when she loses the title, that's it. No rematch, no nothing. She loses the title. She's done wrestling forever. And it'd be an interesting way to go out there, to go out almost on top, that you never actually take your rematch to see if you could get your title back. You just lose and you're done. But I feel like if they're going that route, it's still further down the line.
Yeah, I feel like they don't have possibilities, but they do. At the same time, I just don't know what route they would take. And that's the problem that I have in my mind, because, like I said, we have Masha. He just mentioned Jordynne as well. We have Killer Kelly. So just like, you have those three for the moment. Who else? And I don't know what route they would take at this point. But I think that's why I said the next couple of weeks are really going to give us an idea of what it's like for them.
Yeah, we're in an interesting place in the knockouts division right now, as my dog blocks me in the camera, but that's fine. That we seem to have a ton of possibilities in the individual scene, that we have a lot of one woman here, one woman there, the Mickey's last rodeo, the title scene, Masha, Killer Kelly, Tasha Steelz now. I mean, obviously Tasha and Savannah just had their tag title shot tonight, but Tasha is still someone that's a former champion, and we're developing Savannah Evans. It appears to be somebody that could be a threat and a monster sooner rather than later as well. Lots of individual pieces, nothing really formed into teams anymore now. We've just seen the breakup of X. We've seen Madison and Tenille leave. Obviously, quite a while ago, we saw Cassie and Billy leave. So lots of moving pieces, but on one end, we have a great Knockouts women's title division. On the other end, we're really lacking in the Knockouts tag division.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Bobby mentions the one I forgot as well, Alicia. not to mention the fact that we've still got Su Yung, Brandy Lauren, and Kimberly sitting at home waiting for a story, really.
Yeah, and I think Su Yung has returned in a bunch of indie events. So from what I see her promoting this, I was surprised they don't have anything to bring her up. But yeah, Alicia, just like, I feel like she's always in the background, so you don't see her unless they need somebody for those random like X Division, Ultimate X, or Queen of the Mountain type of matches, and they need multiple people, and they just bring her up, and then she's done afterwards. So I feel like she's never really had something concrete, which is kind of sad to think about.
Yeah. Once we finished with the Mickey James, Taylor Wilde story, we went into our tag title match. Much better match than I was expecting. Heath and Rhino and the major players really put on a very solid veteran match. All four of these guys have been really good hands in the wrestling industry for a really long time. A ton of experience, a ton of road time, probably spent a lot of it together. So they really knew each other, handled each other's moves, and handed out moves at a steady pace. I can't say it was a really fast pace. It wasn't a really fast paced match, but it never felt slow either. It felt like they just had the ring work down. They knew what their timing needed to be. It knew when their spots needed to be. Nothing felt sloppy. Nothing felt fantastic. Just a really good match between the two teams.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the middle towards this one because it wasn't a bad match, but it wasn't the greatest match ever, but it was like good enough to keep my attention. I thought it was funny though. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when Brian was upside down on the turnbuckle and they just drive Cardona to his face. Oh my word. And then he tries to sell it for like a couple of seconds and just kind of forgets that it happened. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if that should keep hurting by now, but okay. But I thought that those moments like that, just like they, even when the match is the way it was, they still like to bring those little comedy parts to it and just remind you that that's what they do on top of the wrestling. And I like how they combine it in the match. But yeah, it's just a good showing for both teams. And we also had the machine guns come in during the match. I forgot who invited them. I don't remember if it was Heath and Rhino that told them to come down and told them to watch the match. And I was expecting them to come down sooner or later. So I like having them in front and just taking that seat because, funny enough, when I was to Impact, that is exactly when Mr. Anderson was sitting down when I took a picture of him, and he was staring just at me when I was taking that picture of him. So it looks like he's just giving me like a death face. So when I see them sitting down, it reminded me of that. But I liked having them at rings. I just kind of remind you of like, you're missing the major players now, but we're next. When you guys win this match, so I like having them planting that seed of like, it doesn't matter who wins, we're still here because we're next in line.
Yeah, no, it was in that backstage segment with Motor City Machine Guns and Ace and Bay when the major players came and interrupted it, and they told Sabin and Shelley that our match is going to be standing room only at the monitors, so you better come down and grab a seat at ringside if you want to watch. And so about halfway or 2/3 of the way through the match, they just walked down with their own chairs and plopped themselves ringside. And the way this has all been playing out, we haven't had much for multi-man tag matches for a while now. Impact likes to do them, but we haven't seen it for a little bit. That this match and the way they were there, they didn't really get involved, but they still kind of caused the distraction to Cardona and Myers. Makes me think potentially this is a situation where we're heading to a possible three-way.
Yeah, I thought about it because I feel like at the end, the distraction itself could just be a reason for a rematch. And on top of it, having the machine gun say, we're supposed to be next anyway, so might as well do a three-way the first time. And then after that, we can have the one-on-one for both teams there. So yeah, I was thinking that similar route as well.
Barry with a comment there that he just feels like Heath and Rhino should be short-term champions. I'm okay with giving them a little bit of time. We got a lot of solid tag teams going on in the division right now that we can play some stories out without necessarily having to have the titles be the central focus right now. Let Heath and Rhino have a decent length of reign and let the machine guns and the major players fight among themselves. We've got Raj Singh and Shira just kind of debuted as a tag team last week, and we've got Ace and Bay off in Japan that will be coming back looking for tag titles. We've got Violent by Design, Angels and Khan, or Angels and Diener could potentially be tag teams in the near future here. So lots of options for different ways that could play out as well. Yeah. That said, we got into our main title matches after this. The tag titles, we kind of went on a run for title matches the rest of the way through, starting with the X Division title match, which was Black Taurus and Trey Miguel, the last two men standing in the X Division title tournament. and opened as it has for Black Taurus for a little while now, with Crazy Steve in the ring with the introduction. Tail of the tape comes up, announces that this somehow, despite the fact that Trey Miguel and Black Taurus have both been in Impact for as long as they have, is a first time ever match. One thing I took away from Crazy Steve's intro for Black Taurus, though, is it feels very Carney-esque. And so I wrote down that Don Callis should take notes. This match was fantastic. After a weak showing from Taurus in the PJ Black match last week, where I was a little let down, this, I feel like, was probably the best Black Taurus match I've ever seen. It really had me convinced throughout that he could and should win the match. Obviously, that's not where we went. Trey Miguel actually, with what looks and should probably be a heel turn, pulls out the spray paint from, I think he got it under the ring, and sprays Black Taurus in the face at the last minute with the spray paint and gets the roll up for the win. It left me speechless, really. I didn't see it. I really should have seen Trey Miguel's heel turn coming. I didn't. It caught me by surprise. It really ticked me off that they built Taurus up in such a way and then ripped the title away from him when I actually felt he'd earned it. I hope this leads to a rematch. I feel like Black Taurus probably deserves it, and we probably could have something fun for a little bit longer of a story built out of this. You applauded. You love Trey Miguel. What do you think of heel Trey?
I told you he was going to win it back. No, this one was one that, even though I had picked Trey during our predictions, I was so torn when the match was happening. I kept thinking, oh, this is the moment. That's the moment. No. And they kept me like a kid back and forth in there. So when the end happened, I was still surprised. But I'm glad that Trey won. I was so happy still to see him win. I just want to know, like, his reason is still behind it. I want to hear that end of it from him, because that's the part that I was not expecting, the part of the spray paint being involved. But they had such a good back and forth, and I feel like both showcasing each other through this whole match. They made each other look good. That's definitely also one of my, I think probably my favorite Black Taurus match so far has been that one. And I'm glad it was with Trey of all people.
I agree with Barry here. Crazy Steve does make him feel more of a main character. He's been around for so long. For anyone who doesn't know, Crazy Steve is actually legally blind and still wrestles. That he's up there in years. He doesn't have the greatest vision. Keeping him relevant in this way is a fun way to still keep him in, keep Decay still in people's minds, even though Rosemary and Havoc are off doing their own thing. We're still thinking, we're still having that Decay moment in the show, and it's making Black Taurus feel like a big thing too. I did have a couple other notes that I took down from this. That one big surprise for me, by my count, I don't think this match went out of the ring until like the 3/4 of the way through the match, which I saw a thing online recently talking about it, and I've been paying a little bit more attention. Wrestling nowadays, if you actually watch for it, it is so rare to have a match that will actually stay in the ring for the entirety of the match. And I took it down because I felt like we were going there with this one, and then we got where Black Taurus missed the jumping knee in the corner and tumbled to the outside before the kind of finishing spot there. But we went a very, very long time, especially in a fast-paced, high-action X Division match for that to happen. Really just made this match feel even more special to me that these two guys were able to put that on. And then the one that really popped me that had me mark out was the top rope gorilla press by Black Taurus.
Ooh.
I legitimately thought that was it. It looked so similar to his Hellhole Slam that I thought that was the finish and that was him winning.
Yeah, I barely saw a Trey kick out of that one. So I really thought Black Taurus won during that moment. They said, no, he kicked out. I was like, holy crap, how did he kick out of that? And then I also like there was a combination. I know Black Taurus went for like a big like double chop to Trey, and Trey just like went back to the kick up and went and hit him right after that. So I love that part of it. But overall, I love this match. I definitely feel like more this part of the overdrive was definitely my favorite part, starting from here. the Knockouts championship match and the main event were definitely my favorite matches going up. So I'm glad like the pacing and the interest kept me like steady after when this was happening. So this was definitely the beginning of my favorite parts.
Oh yeah, from this match on, all three of these title matches were must see.
Yeah.
I feel like the 2 countdown matches, being countdown matches and free on YouTube, shouldn't have been missed. I feel like both of them were really strong. I felt the open of the main show, the first couple matches, they were there. They did what they needed to do, but they weren't must see. This X Division match, the Knockouts title match, and the World title match, all three of those were top tier, top class wrestling matches for any wrestling fan to go and search out and find. Speaking of, my first note on the Knockouts title match between Masha Slamovich and Jordynne Grace, holy hell, was this a great match.
Yeah.
Tell me, Astrid, did this top the first match?
I don't even know how to describe it after this one. I was thinking about it afterwards and comparing them both. Like, how do I pick a favorite? Because they were both good in different ways. I didn't know what to think about. It's like, which one's my favorite? I can't even pick one. They're so good. They're so hard hitting, and the great back and forth they had with each other. They were not shy about going everywhere on the ring, grabbing whatever they could. Definitely not afraid of going that extra mile. So this was definitely one that kept me like interested. I was just like, oh my god, how is it gonna end? But I can't pick a favorite though. I love both of them so much so far. So maybe I had to rewatch both one after the other and just kind of figure out later which one. But right now I can't.
These two women are the epitome of a fight forever chant.
Yeah.
I could watch these two in every single stipulation you could put there. Give me barbed wire massacre, give me a monster's ball, give me a Hell in a Cell, a cage match, 6 sides of steel, a ladder match, a tables match. Put them in every situation. Give me Masha Slamovich and Jordynne Grace on every pay-per-view for the next year, and I probably won't complain. This match had power, brutality, ring psychology, smart targeting. You had Masha targeting the neck and back of Jordynne to try and stop her from being able to use a lot of her power moves like the Muscle Buster and the Grace Driver. But then you had Masha missed the spot in the corner, slammed her knee off the ring post, and from that point on, Jordynne focused on the knee of Masha, which is really what ended up winning the match, is that Masha went to stand and her knee gave out on her, which is absolutely brilliant storytelling that is so rarely done as well as it was in this match. That for a last knockout standing match, the 10 counts didn't feel unnecessary. The number of kind of stopped and pauses, because they were hitting so hard and every move felt like it was just so impactful. I loved every bit of it, and I'm with you that I can't pick between this and the last as to which was better, because they both were A++ women's matches that deserve to be the main event of any pay-per-view on any day of the week.
Yeah, I thought about that too because I kept thinking, even though I love Josh and Kaz, if this would have been the main event, I would have loved it too. And I kept thinking, I thought about that a few times during the match, and even just thinking of like the two matches. When this one was announced, I didn't think it could exceed my expectations of what the first one was like. So I kept thinking, how is this going to be better than the last time? And I liked how they made it out better even than the last time too. And I kept thinking, I can't even pick between both of them, but I love them both so much. And just that this is the first time, or like the first 2 times that I see Masha performing. So to see her in a light like this, like it's already like a good high up bar for me. I wanted to highlight also Barry's comments that Masha's only 24. How good is she going to end up? Like I didn't know she was that young to begin with. So that's incredible to think about. But it also made me disappointed at the end of her character, because you're thinking they built her up so well, only for her to lose both championship matches in a row. And it's like, at the same time, you kind of wish she was the champion as well after the match and how it won and like the rivalry itself. But I don't see Jordynne losing either. So I feel like I was torn when the match is happening.
Yeah, it's never a good thing when you look at wins and losses to have the back-to-back title losses like that. But having watched the matches and how much it took for even Jordynne Grace to put her away, I think puts her on the map. I think legitimizes her, makes her feel like a big deal, that she can go down now and have a match with anybody else and still feel like she's the favorite, like she should demolish anybody else on the roster. My question that I asked to you as I was watching this match, and I want to pose again in an open forum here, why are there so many doors under the Impact Wrestling ring?
They are the forbidden doors, so but also have the doors under there. You never know who's going to come out of one of them. Be ready.
The number of their hardcore style and like open violent matches where somebody pulls out a door, feel like you should have quality control finding out where these doors are coming from, because you probably have a lot of locker rooms that are missing a door now.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of this match, though, what's next for Masha? Where do you see Masha going now?
That's the same thing I was thinking about even when we were doing our predictions too. I kept trying to like figure out what route that we're gonna go for, because after Masha, I could see her going against somebody like Mickey, like we mentioned earlier, because she's one of those I would like to see against Mickey. She's definitely not gonna go for the championship again after losing twice in a row like this. But I just made me wonder who else can she go against. I feel like there's a lot of people that are singles competitors, so you never know which one they're gonna pick in that sense of it. But I also thought whoever they picked to go against Masha is definitely not going for the title, though. So I had to have like a go back and forth. And I feel like we said earlier, there's so many possibilities. I don't know who they're going to go for. But that's the beauty of it, though. It's like you never know who they're going to pick next and what route they're going to go next. If they decide to go with somebody outside of the company for the moment and then kind of have Jordan and Mickey more towards the end with the championship on the line. Because one thing I noticed that during commentary, they mentioned during the Mickey James match, and they said, Mickey has had such a great career that she could easily go to management and say, I want a title match, and they'll give it to her. But instead, she's working here from the ground up, working her butt off to earn that title match. So mentioning that in commentary made me think about this is happening very soon, but how soon is it happening though? Because I don't know if I see it happening at Hard to Kill, but I feel like it's a good enough pay-per-view that they could have the last rodeo match there too. But like I said, there's so many possibilities, and this is a time like hopefully next week we'll definitely kind of see what route they pick in this sense.
Yeah, that goes for both Masha and Jordan. That both of them, their paths are open. With Tasha and Savannah now having lost the tag match, we could possibly see them split and one of them going after either Masha or Jordan. I don't recall Tasha having actually faced Masha yet, because she was tied up with Killer Kelly, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And obviously both of them have fought Giselle, so where does Giselle go next? If Taylor Wilde's sticking around, where does she go next? Does Alicia get involved here? I think Alicia already got whooped by Masha, but maybe Alicia somehow manages to find her way into a title match. Lots of different options and possibilities in that area too. I'm very interested to see where we go next with the Knockouts division. Let's just say that, because there's a lot more question marks than answers after this show.
Yeah, I also wanted to highlight Barry Monkey's comment here. I was thinking Masha would join Violent by Design, but I'm not sure they would go if Eric Young is in it. He's what made it work. I think like for her, I wouldn't have her join anybody as of yet. I would just kind of build her up again to challenge somebody else. Like I said, she's one of the few people that I would like to see going against Mickey sometime soon.
So let's touch on that, because Barry brings up Violent by Design. They weren't on the Overdrive pay-per-view at all, but they were kind of left hanging after last week's Impact. Tonight's Impact, with in between all of the Thanksgiving recaps and looks back on the different turkey bowls, we did get a brief backstage interlude from Diener and Young, kind of with Diener in the role Young had played in the Rhino situation. Angels and Khan, they're questioning the group. Is it over already? Designer, where do we go next? And then it flips with Young talking to Diener and talking about beginnings and ends, and where does the beginning end and where does the end begin, and different kind of conundrums and rhetorical questions in there that I feel like VBD, Eric Young is a big enough personality, and he's had that place for so long in Impact, that VBD feels like they're going to be a big part of the next few months of Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, the way I saw that, I it made me interested to see what we're going to do next. And now that Angels and Con are part of it, I was hoping we would get that answer tonight somehow. But being that it's the Thanksgiving special, we'll probably get some answers next week. But I like that they show that clip so that way we don't forget about what happened, even though they were not part of the Overdrive pay-per-view.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see, Bobby's comment. Maybe Jordan Grace will show up after the match between Jordan and then Jordan versus Deanna next week on Impact Wrestling.
Versus the Mickey and Deanna.
Yeah, because we get Deanna and Mickey next week so far.
Yeah. So that's been confirmed. We've got Mickey and Deanna next week. We've got Bully Ray versus Rich Swann next week. And we've got Macklin versus Kazarian next week.
Yeah.
But let's first talk about the world title match. Because this was 40 minutes of fantastic wrestling. Another A++ main event. We got spoiled on this show with a killer women's match and then a killer men's match to close out the show one after the other. It was exhausting to watch those two matches back to back because they were just so much amazing wrestling that you never really got a chance to stop and breathe for over an hour of wrestling. And I loved it. I loved every bit of it. When the women's match started and I still had over an hour and a half left on my feet, I'm like, how is this even possible?
Yep, I didn't notice until the end the same thing when I was watching this because I kept thinking, how long did this match go for? And looking back at how long it really took, I was impressed because it didn't feel that long, but at the same time, like you said, having both matches back to back, it was exhausting to watch at the same time. But I didn't realize how long the world title match was until it ended.
Yeah. It was a technical showcase early. It was a masterclass of just ring psychology and wrestling maneuvers through the middle. And then it was just two men at the end of 40 minutes exhausted at the end. There was a couple spots that obviously were missed. You had one off the top that looked like Josh trying to go for a superplex. Not sure what happened. They both kind of landed on their feet. Josh's neck looked like he was getting looked at by the ref at one point there, that he might have tweaked his neck on that kind of failed superplex. And then there was the other spot where Josh looked like he was going for a C4 spike off the top rope, and it was kind of a little bit of a bumbly arm drag that Kazarian managed to drag him off the top with. But these guys killed it, despite the fact like they were exhausted by that point in the match already, and I think they still went for another 10 minutes after that. But they put on what you love to see in wrestling. They hit every point. They hit the emotional aspects. They hit the physical, the high spots, the low spots, the technical spots, submissions, finishing moves. Josh went for a Styles Clash. Frankie hit a Styles Clash. Mm-hmm. And then when all was said and done, Josh finally caught him and hit the C4 spike. And the way Frankie just crumpled in that C4 spike looked deadly. It looked like he had nothing left. Like, you probably could have convinced me Josh just killed him the way his body just collapsed. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved both of these matches. Must see. Search them out. I'm sure they'll be up on Impact's YouTube in the next couple weeks because they like to put stuff up to really promote. If you didn't watch the pay-per-view, search out those two matches.
Yeah, knowing it was Josh and Kaz, two people that I really love, I already knew I was going to end up loving this match, but they exceeded my expectations. One thing, like you mentioned, I was noting of the Styles Clash when it happened, and they kept mentioning during commentary, it's like, Styles Clash. I know what I'm excited for. I already am. But yeah, this match, holy crap, was amazing from beginning to end. I don't even know how to describe it at this point. But like you said, it's like, if you haven't watched it, you can even get the subscription from YouTube. It's just a couple bucks. It doesn't even take much. And you can definitely go back and rewatch it on the membership tab, like I learned finally. But yeah, I love the match so much. Definitely one that I want to rewatch. That back and forth they had with each other. There was so many moments I kept thinking, oh, this is it. And it wasn't. And not only that, I was already torn on the result because I kept thinking I want Josh to surpass all the past reigns that we had as Impact World Champions and have him be the number one now. But at the same time, the storyline with Kaz of like Kaz never having the world title and wanting it, but not only himself but his family as well. It's just one thing that I made him want want him to get that championship match and have that match tonight Friday. I mean, and just winning that championship and having that moment with his family, I kind of picture that for him too. And it's like I was so torn. So I was just watching it. I feel like I almost wanted to bite my nails because I was so nervous, but I didn't. But these two, they had an incredible match. So if you haven't watched it, definitely check it out.
Yeah. Once the match was done, we had a little bit of a celebration in the ring. We had Josh really kind of praising Kaz for the effort. A nice heartfelt moment in the ring between the two of them. At that point, I even took down a note asking, like, could this be a curtain call for Kaz in Impact Wrestling? As we learned tonight, it isn't, because we're still going to get Kazarian versus Macklin next week. So that kind of answered my question there. And then we have Bully Ray come out. Right as Kaz is leaving the ring, we get the missile drop of Bully Ray's music coming out with his trophy, walks into the ring, grabs a mic, stands in front of Josh, does exactly what he said right from the minute he came back and won the Call Your Shot, stands in the ring, calls his shot to Josh's face, shakes his hand, confirms that that match for the world title is happening at Hard to Kill January 13th. In the midst of all of this, Bully did come out. He commended on how amazing that match was, talked about it as a top quality match, the same as we just have. Basically said it deserved a standing ovation, declares Josh Alexander the most credible world champion on the planet right now. Before we get into anything else that happened after this, do you agree with Bully Ray's comments about Josh being the most credible world champion?
Oh, I feel like that's a tough one for me because I watch WWE, so I'm a Roman fan, but it comes at a point that his championship is stale for me at the moment. But it just he is credible in the way he wrestles and his performances, and he's very real with the way he wrestles. So I get his point of view when he said that. And like I liked how this whole part hit this whole part with Bully started with him sticking to his word, as he said, because he said, "I'm gonna shake your hand and tell you how great the match was." You know, that part of it, and just it got me back to the way Bully was saying. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be this person," and he showed that person to Josh, but then he also changed it afterwards. So I like how he did it, but then he also didn't do it at the same time.
He never stabbed him in the back. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was straight up. He called his shot. He let Josh know he was coming, and Josh still turned his back. And at the end of the day, as much as people will blame Bully and say that this is Bully going heel, this is Bully, typical Bully Ray, he gave Josh warning. You don't turn your back on your opponent. Even if your opponent's not for like a month and a half away still, he's coming for your title. He's going to do whatever it takes to win the title when that time comes. You don't turn your back on your opponent. And that falls on Josh for somehow, some way, against everything else, believing that by Bully being true to his word to this point meant that he was going to be true the rest of the way when he hadn't said he would be.
It's like, how many people warned you at this point, Josh?
Yeah, geez, we've had to listen to it for the last 2 months. You think you would have got the point, but no, exactly. You asked Dreamer once and you just listened to Dreamer.
It's all Dreamer's fault, like usual.
Yeah. The beatdown and the attack was brutal. In a couple versions of the term. He attacked Josh right as Josh was going to meet Jade and Jet at ringside, beat him down with a chair, basically tried to zip tie him to the rope. I think the zip tie broke. I don't know if that was actually intended for Josh to get his hand free or not, but Bully grabs Jade and yanks her over the railing into the ringside area. I assume at some point where I missed it that Jet got shooed away because he wasn't there when Jade was being dragged into the ring.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I remember when I was watching this, I was still half asleep from work, so I missed this part. And then when I went back to rewatch it, if you notice, by the time of the beatdown, Jet isn't next to Jade at all in that part. And you could tell that something was going to happen at that moment because he wasn't there beside her when this whole thing started.
Yeah, there was one point where I noticed when they cut to Jade, a woman in like a fancy green dress showed up beside her that hadn't been there, or I hadn't noticed throughout the rest of the night. And that was right before I noticed Jet was gone. So I wondered if that was like a nanny or somebody that came and took Jet away. But you have Bully attacking Jade, threatening to pile drive her onto the cement floor. Basically demands Josh grab his title and hand it over to him. Threatening the entire time that if Josh does one thing wrong, he's going to pile drive Jade. Then he throws Jade to Josh and still threatens to smash her with a chair while she's laying in Josh's lap. Chokes Josh briefly, and then we end the show. Now, on Impact, we did get an exclusive of what happened after the show went off the air, that we had Scott D'Amore come running out, screaming at Bully Ray, "What is wrong with you?" And Bully takes the mic and just asks the same thing he's asked multiple times over the last couple months. Do you know who I am? And that should have been the key, right? Everybody's been telling Josh who Bully is. The whole thing has been, this is who Bully is. This is who Bully is. And Bully has said it now multiple times. Do you know who I am? That it all kind of plays together, right? That we've been told who he is, and yet we still didn't want to believe that that was who he was.
Yeah, and I think at one point I also noted it, just to note the timing of it. Before he takes Jade from ringside, he actually tells us, "What would you ever trust me?" And I said, "Exactly. What would you ever?" You know his history. How many people have reminded you by now for the past like 2 months or so? Don't trust him. And then when he trusted him, he pulls Jade at ringside the whole time. I did like the little bits of like every time he went up a little bit higher to set up for the pile driver, Jade would keep screaming and screaming. And even when the chair shots towards Josh, he pointed it towards his throat. He's like, if you move, she's the one that's going to take it. And even barely moving from ringside, and the way this played out, I was like, holy crap. Because even as somebody who knows about Bully, this was incredible to even watch on screen. And the way it played off with Jade as well. It's something that I saw coming because, like I mentioned before, the last couple of weeks have been showing a lot of Jade during Josh's matches at ringside. So I kept wondering when this was going to play out, and this was definitely my answer when it came to that. This is why Jade has been in the ringside the past couple of weeks, because something like this was going to happen eventually. But I did like how, more than anything, this started a certain way, and you keep thinking, "Oh, this is Bully just keeping his word in a way, and just saying, I'm gonna do everything to your face," but at the same time he turned and backstabbed him as well. So I wonder next week if who else is going to go to Josh and say, "Look, I told you so," kind of situation. If it's going to be Dreamer of all people, perhaps that's the one I picture. And just to tell you, it's like, "I told you so. I told you not to trust him, so how would you to begin with?" But yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad that this is now we have the match set for Hard to Kill, so we have a couple of weeks for that build up there as well. Even though it hasn't enough build up as it is, but we're gonna get more of it for sure. Especially with like having Swan and Bully next week. Rest in peace, Rich Swan, because we know what's happening. So that's all I'm like expecting. But this was such an interesting turn the way it played out on screen. I just couldn't stop watching it. It's just like even though you knew what was going to happen, it's still the way it played off. It was incredible to watch, though. And I had no words when it was done, for sure. I did miss the footage, as you said, about Scott D'Amore coming over at ringside and just telling Bully that. So I wonder if they're going to just like, Scott's not going to say anything to Bully, maybe at ringside, and just kind of suspend him for a week or two, maybe. I'm surprised that from his end, he's not doing anything.
The other part of that, and it's what set up the match for next week, is when Scott came down and Scott's there. He took off his mic pack and his headset and threw them at Bully. And while he's doing that, Rich Swann came running out behind him to check on Josh. Which I think is kind of what played out now into Rich being the one to take on Bully next week. Is he's the one that came to Josh's aid. Now he's going to be the one to try and take his shot at Bully first and get some payback or some modicum of revenge before Josh gets to at Hard to Kill.
Yeah, I didn't see that footage, but yeah, now that you said it, it makes sense for this match setup, because I thought it was random at first. Yeah. But yeah, that makes sense for sure. I feel bad for Rich that he's the one that has to take Bully first after this happened. And I also wonder if they're going to add some kind of stipulation to this match, because I feel like just a regular type of match, I feel like it's not going to be it, because Josh above people is going to want payback, not only for himself but for Jade. So I feel like he's going to end up being more, I want to say, violent than usual. So I'm kind of hoping they have something else involved in here rather than just a regular match.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out over the next little bit. It's definitely gonna be a fun build. Bully Ray makes a fun character to tell a story with. He may not be the greatest in the ring anymore, but he's still someone who can tell a story, and we've seen that with the Moose match tonight. We've seen it with the Bullet Club build leading up to this. Everything Bully has done since coming back has really told a story.
Yeah.
But that's the show.
Yeah.
That was Overdrive. We didn't have a lot tonight. Tonight's Impact was simply a Thanksgiving special. Like I said, looking back at different Turkey Bowl matches, different incidents involving turkeys, the dinner at Kurt Angle's house, the winner turkey dinner with Rockstar Spud back in the day. Lots of different fun shenanigan stuff with turkeys and Thanksgiving and the typical nonsense that Impact likes to do this time of year. Not too much to see there. Impact has released a lot of the videos of the promos and stuff that were shown on tonight's show on their YouTube or on their Twitter channels, that you can simply check those out and not have to tune into the whole show. Couple questions here. Bobby asked first, who is the next challenger for Joe Hendry?
I mean, they could easily give a rematch to Brian and start from there. And then after that, I would say, why don't you bring up Jason again and just kind of put something in there? They already had a match, so why not have another one?
I was thinking Cardona. I don't know what the long-term plans for Cardona are, if he's leaving, if he's staying, but he never actually got to have his proper rematch for the title, and he still brags about being the internet champion. So something I could see there, that Matt Cardona would be a fun one to draw into that spot. Yeah. And then Barry mentions next week, December 2nd, we get the return of the IPWF Throwback Throwdown with Throwback Throwdown 3, with the International Commonwealth Television Championship title being vacant after Downtown Daddy Brown left the company. It's going to be fun. If you've never watched a Throwback Throwdown before, I hadn't seen the first one. I saw the second one. But it is always a fun time. It's a throwback to the 1980s wrestling regions, territory, back to the territory days. You have building. You have DJ Too Tall? I don't know. I can't keep up with the names.
Yeah,
it's a fun time. It's all of your current Impact stars playing characters from the 80s. And we won't be doing a show next Friday about it. We will probably talk about it on the following Impact recap afterwards, just to discuss anything that we found fun or entertaining or anything about it. DJ Too Cool. Thank you, Barry. I knew you'd have that for me. Next week's Impact will be back to normal. Should be a fun show with lots to see. Anything else from you over Overdrive, tonight's Impact, next week's Impact, Astrid?
No, I'm just excited because I feel like I feel like next week will be their route of, like, we know where they're going and what their plans are for the next couple of months. So that's why I'm more than anything excited for the next coming weeks of Impact.
For sure. It's a lot of question marks, but Impact does a really good job filling those question marks with the right pieces when they need to. For myself, you can find me on the socials. I'm still on Twitter. I have not found myself a hive yet. I don't even know what a hive is. I don't feel like I'm a hornet or a bee. I don't know why I need a hive, but maybe I'll find one eventually. My Twitter right here at Cody Defoe. That's my Twitch username as well, if you wanted to follow there. Not much happening on my Twitch still. I'm still trying to get myself set up to get streaming on video games soon enough. But you can find me here every Thursday making an impact with the Natural Astrid. You can find me occasionally on OLE Pods, doing some Marvel stuff. I did a recap of Wakanda Forever and a ranking of all of the Phase 4 properties with Ed Fries and Andre just a couple weeks ago. going to be looking at doing some of that. We've got the new Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special coming out tomorrow. Going to try and get in and watch that, and possibly be on this weekend with Andre and Ed again doing a recap of what we think of that. Astrid, where can people find you?
Well, I did find a hive before you did. But it's the same username for me, Astrid Bizarre, as you see right there. In my Twitter, my Instagram is Astrid Bizarre 20. As for everything else, you can see me taking over the parish, and sometimes Ed on Tuesdays for NXT. Here Thursdays back with you, making an impact. So I think we'll go back to 10:30 next week if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, after that, you can find me doing my women's wrestling talk reviews of NXT on the weekends. So watch out for the socials when they post them. But yeah, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving. Thanks to everybody, especially in the US, and that are here with us on this holiday. We really appreciate you sticking with us tonight and talking about Impact Wrestling, even though we were just talking about something that happened now a week ago almost. But yeah, just looking forward to any wrestling we have over the week. I'm catching up on Full Gear as it is, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go ahead and find a good friend of mine to raid.
Get us set up. While you're getting us set up, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody. Barry, Bobby Batito, Bobby Munson, Mel Ball, everybody that's joined us in the comments here today. Like I do every week, we always appreciate you guys coming in, dropping in, giving us your thoughts, joining the conversation. We're always happy to have anybody that we can to talk in the comments with. Ed Fry's always our backstage representative, our helpful friend, our host sometimes if we need him. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the States. Astrid, before you send us to your friend on the stream raid there, who was your impact maker from Overdrive?
Oh, jeez. I'm going to do Trey Miguel. I love the match, so I got to stick to him, and I love him being champion, and I'm looking forward to what he does next.
I am going to say Black Taurus. Best match of his career, best match on Impact. Really excited to see where he goes next.
Well, before I put in the intro, just want to let you guys know I'm going to send you over to my good friend, I was going to say Roberto. I was going to say Bobby. Roberto Bronini. He does a lot of streaming for video games. I want to support him as well. And he's known me since my college days. One of my few wrestling friends that I have for too long in my life. So just want to show him a little support. So stick around after the intro and just support him and say hi and tell him that we sent you over. So yeah, we appreciate everybody coming. See you all next week.